There's a lot of different ways that we can actually add some assistive devices in our life to hopefully help reduce the risk of falls in seniors. And some of these you've probably heard of, and some of these maybe you haven't considered. So a walker and a cane, of course, that's a duh. A lot of people, this is the first thing you'll lean towards. And if you are somebody who is wanting a walker and a cane, you might not be able to get a custom fit, but I would highly recommend to go to a secondhand store like Goodwill or any of these kind of just secondhand stores, generally speaking. And you can usually find a cane or walker or some of these other devices in those stores very, very cheap. I actually bought a walker at a Goodwill for $5, and I use it for some of my exercise videos to demonstrate. So just an example of a place you can get some cheap equipment like that. A gait belt, this might be a good assistive device for you if you are working with a senior or if you live alone and have a nurse coming and help you. A gait belt is basically something that wraps around your waist and chest, and it is basically something that people can lift up on to pull you up into position and give you a little bit of support when you're walking around. That's a super great assistive device that can help with seniors. And in addition to that, the Apple Watch. This is a really, really cool thing that I wanted to highlight because a lot of older adults nowadays are very, very tech savvy and getting even more tech savvy as the years go on, which is great. There's a lot of good technology that can help seniors, but the Apple Watch in particular can help with fall risk. And some of the newer models, they actually have a setting where if you fall on the ground too hard, or basically it will detect if you fall. So if your watch moves quickly in a certain aspect, it can ping your watch and say, hey, we think you have fallen, should we call for help? And from there you can have it call 911 or do all these things. So it's kind of like Life Alert, which is one of the other assistive devices that seniors can use. But the Apple Watch is really, really cool. And I'm sure there's a lot of other things too that can help with fall risk and overall health and well-being in seniors. But I haven't had an Apple Watch in a while. I sold mine a couple years ago, but I do know of that specific one that can help. In addition to Life Alert, everyone knows Life Alert. It's basically a little clip. And some have like monitors, like bracelets, some have necklaces, and basically it's a button that kind of can signal to EMS immediately if something's wrong, if something feels off. That's a really, really good one because you can take that anywhere, and it's kind of separate from your own phone, right? So go ahead, just type in Life Alert into Google. You can find some good information on Life Alert, but basically it's an emergency system that can help you when you have fallen. So it's not going to prevent falls necessarily, but it can help you if you've gotten to one. Mini steps, really, really crucial here. So if you are at a place that has really large steps and you're like, oh my gosh, this is too difficult for my mobility and strength, there are a lot of different ways that you can make steps smaller. One of the ways I've seen this done is by actually adding small bricks in between the actual steps. So instead of having really large steps, they have steps that are about half the size because they've kind of added more bricks. You can, of course, just replace the stairs and try to get smaller stairs, but we're not reinventing the wheel here. And sometimes just adding a little bit of an extra boost can help you in those mini steps, and kind of along the same aspects of adding either handrails or ramps to your daily life. So if you have a set of stairs that's really, really tough, a handrail is a super easy way to make it easier to get up onto, and of course can reduce the overall fall risk of happening. These are really easy to install as well. Sometimes they can be installed directly into a home. Sometimes you can actually drill something into the ground if your stairs are outside, but really easy way to do it. And then speaking of other things that we can do outside, a lot of people will want to get a ramp in their home if they can't really get upstairs and they have a lot of stairs. So these ramps are actually pretty easy I wouldn't say easy to install, but they're pretty cheap and fairly easy to install for kind of the benefit that they offer older adults and seniors in reducing fall risk. You can get ramps up into your home, and you can also even have some ramps around your home too. And when I say ramp, it almost sounds like a skateboarding ramp. This isn't a very crazy ramp. It's a very, very not steep incline, right? This is only like a 1-inch incline. It's basically something that reduces the trip hazard, because a stair is a trip hazard. So if you have something that's more smooth and more steady, that's of course a little bit easier to get up onto. Anti-slip mats, those will be incredibly crucial if you are walking around your home in slippery areas. So maybe you have some in the shower, maybe you have some in the kitchen. There's a lot of different places that anti-slip mats can be incredibly useful for. If you're not familiar with a Hoyer lift is actually something that usually you would use for somebody. So if you are a loved one working with somebody who's at a fall risk, or a senior who doesn't have a lot of strength, you can actually kind of have somebody sit in this Hoyer lift, and it's basically this giant web that they sit in. And when they sit in it, you can then crank up this, I don't know, it's just a lever. It's just a giant lever. And basically it helps get them out of the chair. It helps get them out of the chair. And from there, you can kind of move them around a little bit. You can sit them down in another chair. So if they're in a position where they really, maybe they're just sick and they don't have a lot of strength to do anything, having a Hoyer lift available if you are in that situation. Again, hopefully you're not, and hopefully if you're a senior, you're still working on your strength as much as you can. But I understand sometimes it comes to a point where you need stuff like Hoyer lifts. And then special shoes. This is really cool. So there are numerous different types of anti-slip shoes on the market. You can literally type in just zero slip shoes. Also trying to find some shoes that have maybe a wider base on them, because the wider the base, the better your balance is going to be with those specific shoes, because as we know, if you have a wider base, it's easier to balance on. Think about it. If you are having your feet nice and narrow, it's tougher to balance. If you have your feet nice and wide, it's going to be easier to balance. So the same concept applies for your shoes too. If you get a shoe that's a little bit wider, it can be incredibly easier for you to balance. And of course, try it without shoes as well. That's the only way your balance is going to truly get better. But I would definitely look into those anti-slip shoes because those can really, really help. A lot of servers will use anti-slip shoes in basically the kitchen, because they're around grease and a lot of things that are very, very at a high risk for falling. So think about it. We can use those types of shoes if you're a senior as well. So go ahead and give this video a like if you've provided some value from it so far.